You're listening to the Packernet Podcast Network.
What's going on, U.S. Cellular customers? I've got good news, so don't hit skip, at least not yet. I'm talking about their special customer event, Us Days. What is Us Days? It means exclusive offers just for their customers, just to say thanks, like $1,200 off any phone, plus $300 off any tablet. No, I didn't just misread that. They must really like you. Us Days at U.S. Cellular, exclusive offers just for you, just to say thank you. Right now, U.S. Cellular customers get $1,200 off any phone, plus $300 off any tablet. Terms apply.
Before history is written, it's played. Before it's frozen in time, it's fought one shift at a time. Before it's etched in silver, it's carved in ice. What happens next will last forever. The Stanley Cup Final on ABC and ESPN Plus begins Saturday.
You feel this nervousness on the phone there?
Sir, I've been trying to make an urgent phone call up there.
I don't think it's something I want to do on an overseas phone.
You gotta make some phone calls. Hang up the phone. Prank caller.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to Packernet After Dark. This is the call-in show of the Packernet Podcast Network. If you'd like to call in, if you'd like to participate in the show, please feel free to do so. Phone number here is 608-501-0718. New callers go directly to the front of the line. We don't have any new callers, but we do have Steve.
Hey, Ryan. How's it going, man? Steve up in Alaska. I want you to call and thank you for doing that song for me because that was awesome. I needed to hear that. It was in my head, and I needed it out into the world so I could hear it instead of just having it bounce around my head. That was great. Second little thing, I was thinking, can't remember his name, but he's some Bears radio TV commentator guy that was on Coward, and he was mentioning that if the new quarterback doesn't work out, that he said he'd start believing in curses because it's been so long since the Bears have had any kind of quarterback. I haven't actually ever had any kind of quarterback. Yeah. So he said he believed in curses. And I started thinking about it. I said, you know what? I think the Bears did curse themselves because in that '85 Super Bowl, everybody on that damn team scored a touchdown but Walter Payton. And I think the football gods are going to punish them forever for not letting Walter Payton score a touchdown when everybody else scored. To go on to the final point, somebody's been talking about barbecue, and we haven't been mentioning barbecue, and some new item for you. See if I got time to make sure. Oh, yeah, I got time to say it all. I'm going to give you one of my a recipe for something that I sell out of my place. It's a chicken salad. So you're going to need to smoke some chicken breast. I'm going to give you my numbers. It makes a fair amount, but you got a bunch of people to feed, so it'll probably work out just fine. So you're going to need to have, after the chicken breast is smoked, you need 2.5 pounds of smoked chicken breast. You're going to need 1 cup of walnuts. You're going to need about a half a cup of diced red onion, half a cup of celery. Trying to remember all. 2 tablespoons of sugar, 1 tablespoon of black pepper, 2 teaspoons of garlic salt, a teaspoon of paprika, a teaspoon of parsley, and 1 teaspoon, I use a powdered chicken base just to add a little flavor to it, and 2 cups of mayonnaise. So you're going to take your chicken breast and your walnuts, and you're going to run them through a food processor so that you've got them ground up, the walnuts ground up good, and the chicken ground up, not really fully like into a pate, but you want it to be broken down really, really well. Take that and put all that into a pan. Dice your celery and your onions up into very small pieces. You don't want big chunks. You want very, very little tiny pieces, like 1/4-inch pieces. Not even that, really. 1/8-inch pieces. Mix that all up in the pan, mix it all together, and then you got your chicken salad. What you can also do to it is once you got it all mixed up, you add a little buffalo wing sauce to it. So then you got a buffalo chicken salad. It's great on crackers. It's great on bread or sandwiches. You can heat it up if you wanted to, and do kind of like if you were to do a tuna melt, you can do a chicken salad melt with it. So yeah, there's a recipe.
All right, starting off the show with a recipe. I'm not sure if anything with salad in the name is going to be something that I'm going to eat unless it's some kind of a fruit salad or something. But you folks go ahead and try that and let us know how it went. 1265, what's going on?
Hi.
Hi.
1265 fan.
What's up?
So, I heard that of course I've heard some of the songs, but not all of them, that you're making AI songs, which is quite fun.
Thanks.
So, I like old school funk.
Yes.
Like Zap, Cameo, right? Cool in the Gang.
See, I like funk a lot, but I don't know anything about funk. I really don't. I like a lot of the songs, but I couldn't tell you the bands. So it's like Zap, Cammy. I never heard of it. I haven't. Like I know George Clinton, and I mean I know Cool in the Gang, but I'm not as educated on it as I should be for somebody who claims to be an enthusiast, but I dig it for sure.
Yeah, baby. That's my kind of jam.
Yep.
That's really all I had to say. Driving home from work, and I thought I'd give you a call and say, I should probably tell them.
Yep.
Because I don't know how many other people have told you what they like, but I think it's kind of cool. People tell you what they like, and then you kind of do a song based on what they really like, so it kind of brings out their personality.
Yeah.
All right? All right. Bye.
Well, I think we know what we have to do at the end of this show. But Uncle Rico, what's going on?
Yo, Ryan.
Yo.
It's your uncle, Rico. What's up, brother? I was just listening to the pod, and you're talking about...
Suave.
Honestly, I don't know what date the broadcast is from, but I'm still behind. But you're talking about the salary cap and how much money Jordan Love should get, and 40% of the cap goes to 4 players or some stuff like that. I was curious, is Tom Brady ever been the highest paid quarterback in the league? I kind of am baffled. I was always angry with Rodgers, and maybe I was misinformed or uninformed or just an idiot. But I always thought, dude's taking all the freaking money, and he's constantly complaining about the players around him while he's taking all the money. And honestly, I hated him for it. I was like, I freaking hate you, dude. Why don't you wise up and let some of that money go and surround yourself with some more talent and win some freaking Super Bowls or whatever, and then the money will just flow. You don't need to be the high. It's an ego thing. I mean, who really, 35 million or 45 million a year? Are you really going to even notice the difference in your bank account? I mean, besides seeing the number, it's like, oh my God, I couldn't buy what I wanted because I only had 35 million in my account. It's just freaking stupid, I think. Anyways, and maybe I'm totally misinformed about the Rodgers thing, but that's the way I look at it, and I don't see, hopefully I hold him to a higher standard than that. Jordan Love, that he's not going to be that arrogant, but maybe, I just hope not. It's not good for the team. I can't see the other players like, dude's taking all the money and I can't get a contract, and they say because there's no room in the salary cap and blah, blah, blah. Well, I just don't understand why anybody would take more money than they need. I mean, a lot more money than they need. Everybody wants more money, but more than, it's just not good for you in the long run. So I was curious about Tom Brady. How did he do it? Because clearly the dude was a winner. So that's what I'm wondering, Ryan. Go Pack Go. I don't know. Oh, I was looking at my phone. It's coming up in 3 minutes. It's awesome. I'm going to let it time out. Tick-tock. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Did it happen?
There you go.
I don't know if it happened.
4 more.
Is it going to tell me if it happened?
Okay. There you go. Well, my stance on it, as much as I am obviously pro-team when it comes to the Green Bay Packers, I've never said, or nor do I believe, that players have an obligation to take pay cuts. I think players have every right to ask for every penny that they're worth. You might as well maximize what you're worth, because the team is certainly going to pay you what you're worth, because when it comes to the point at which you're not worth much, you're not going to get any charity. So there is kind of a tough balance because on one hand, you look at players and you want them to be team players. You want them to show up to OTAs. You want them to do all these things that help the team. You expect that because, of course, you want them to do what's best for the team. Well, there's a direct conflict between what's best for the team and what's best for you when it comes to your contract. But I think that's one area where you can step aside and detach from the team and say, I want what I'm worth. And I'm not saying they should, take more than they're worth, which they can't because the team just wouldn't pay it. But I mean, if you're worth $25 million, go get $25 million. If you're worth $55 million, get $55 million. And if that's what Jordan does, I think that's what Jordan should do. So I don't fault Rodgers for that. However, if you're going to start complaining about the amount of help, now we might be getting into the realm of being silly. Now, we talk about that a lot. I'm trying to specifically remember instances where he directly complained, for example, that we don't. I know comments were made about reload, and I mean I know in the moment he's complained about when like MVS and that crew came in, there were 3 new receivers. He was annoyed with their level of competency, but I don't know that ever extended to why aren't the Packers doing more to do this, that, or the. I don't know. Maybe I'm just blanking on some issues, but I will say that that's where you're kind of crossing the line because you understand why, right? I mean, I understand you probably wanted a wide receiver over Jordan Love, but that obviously is not what we're talking about in terms of contracts and whatnot. That wouldn't really have anything to do with the conversation. So I don't know, but I think I don't think Tom Brady ever got top money. I'm not going to look into it right at this moment. I do know Rodgers did. I think that it's okay that he did, and I don't know that he ever directly complained about, not spending money in free agency to go get guys. If he did, it's a stupid comment. I think those are all my thoughts on the matter.
Hey, Ryan, Trevor in Virginia.
What's up?
I was just looking up Lynn Dickey, some stats and stuff. Obviously, he's under Brady that gets overshadowed by Favre and Rodgers and everybody. But something hilarious occurred to me, and so I started doing some searching around. The Bears have never had a 4,000-yard passer or a 30-touchdown passer in a single season. And everybody talks about Favre and Rodgers and, how many times they've done it. Well, guess what? The Packers have had 5 quarterbacks with 4,000 yards passing. Because it's also now Jordan Love, also Lynn Dickey, and also Don Majkowski. Yep. I don't know how to say his last name anyway. Don Majkowski. They have all 5 that are 4,000 yards. And we've had 4 that are for 30-plus touchdowns. Rodgers, Favre, Love, and also Lynn Dickey. The Bears have been around for over 100 years, and they haven't had this happen once. You can't say, era, they've had great quarterbacks in other eras, because we have quarterbacks from past eras that have been just as good. And yeah, I don't know. It was pretty hilarious to me that we have 5 4,000-yard passers or 30-plus touchdown passers, and the Bears have 0 of either. Neither have even done 1 in a single season. Bears still stuck. Oh God, that screws up. Bears still suck. Go Pack, go.
Yeah, and I mean, that's very true. I still think maybe the greatest indictment is just Jordan Love. And I know there's an additional game tacked on, which the Bears have also had those same amount of games in which nobody's been able to cross this very low threshold. But still, we look at this and say Jordan Love didn't play well for half a season. He kicked it in around week 9, and still he gets over not just 1 of 2. He didn't just do 1 of the 2 things that no Bears quarterback has ever done. He did both. In his first year, in the same season. I mean, this might be the last year we can make fun of him for it because, again, we've got an additional game now, and any team that has an even halfway competent quarterback with the amount of weapons they have at wide receiver, if they try to pass, I mean, they should be able to do it. But, man, if they still can't get there, good Lord. But, yeah, it is hilarious. And as far as the eras are concerned, I mean, it's not like it was just Rodgers. It's not like it was just Jordan. It's not like it was just Favre. It goes back further than that. I understand you're not going to find a lot of that in the 40s, but the Packers in a very dark era were pulling that crap off. Like the Packers in their lowest moments when people were talking about possibly having to dissolve the franchise. Ay. All right, let's take a slightly early break because we got a good, healthy amount of Steve coming up. So we'll come right back and hear from Mr. Steven. What's going on, U.S. Cellular customers? I've got good news, so don't hit skip, at least not yet. I'm talking about their special customer event, Us Days. What is Us Days? It means exclusive offers just for their customers, just to say thanks, like $1,200 off any phone, plus $300 off any tablet. No, I didn't just misread that. They must really like you. Us Days at U.S. Cellular, exclusive offers just for you, just to say thank you. Right now, U.S. Cellular customers get $1,200 off any phone, plus $300 off any tablet. Terms apply. In the hobby, it's not easy of being a fan of ripping packs or repacks. We always hype ourselves up thinking we're going to get some kind of a mint signed Jordan Love card or something. But with zero transparency on available cards and hit rates, it's all just a shot in the dark. That is until now. Introducing slab packs from arenaclub.com, the only repack that provides real value, a complete view of all possible cards, and clear hit rates for each one. Now when I buy slab packs on Arena Club, I finally feel like I know what I'm getting. I don't know if you saw the video me and my son did. That was us on arenaclub.com looking for new cards for my kid. Still on our YouTube channel. You should check it out. They have an incredible website. Slab packs are way better than mystery packs. Immediately after your pulls, they put your cards safe in a vault. So whether you're buying, selling, trading, or displaying, Arena Club's got the card collection platform that you have to check out. Right now, you can get 10% off your first purchase by going to arenaclub.com/packdaddy. That is a crazy offer. 10% off a $400 slab pack. That's $40 right there. Anyways, that's arenaclub.com/packdaddy for 10% off your first purchase. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
Well, good day there, Mr. Ryan. Steve up in Alaska.
What's up?
Just kind of hanging out. I'm on my Friday night, and I have a somewhat off day tomorrow. Don't get a lot of those. Spend a lot of time without them. But I got a thought process here that I want to put out in front of you, and I want to hear what you think. I don't know if anybody else will call in what they think, but heck, you're the guy. You're the one that we all talk about our questions to.
Sure.
That was poorly phrased. You're the one that we ask all our questions to and look for answers because you're a Packer guru. But
thank you.
Here's what my thought is. I'm rewatching the Packer Philly playoff game during the Super Bowl run, so the 2010 wild card game, and it made me start thinking because when I think back to that time, I think that Philly was our most difficult game. That wild card game was our most difficult game in the playoff run. Once we got in the playoffs, I personally think that the Bears game and the last week of the regular season was our most difficult game because we got that and then Philly. But I remember you saying in that time period that Atlanta scared you the most. Now, I want to say that Atlanta was really the easiest win for us because we had played them earlier in that season and we just barely lost him. And I think watching that game that we should have won, and I think the team walked out of there thinking they should have won. And when you look at the Philly game, we had to deal with really what's been kind of an Achilles heel for the Packers, and that's a highly mobile quarterback, a running quarterback, who also has an ability to throw. I know there's been other guys who couldn't throw. Kaepernick couldn't throw worth a damn. But I have a whole complaint with the guys crashing down on the run face and just not keeping the edge. But I think in that 2010 season, the most difficult game that we had to play was that Philly game. And once we got past that, I think we were clear sailing all the way through to having the championship, understanding who we had to play out of the AFC. But in the NFC, we were there. So I'd like to ask you to kind of go back and compare the Philly team and the Atlanta team, and might as well look at the Bears team and see which of them, when you look at our Packer team, which was really the more difficult opponent for us to play if you can look back that far. All right, man, my time's up. Talk to you later. Bye.
Yeah, well, they're kind of different questions. I mean, if we look at the most difficult games, I mean, Philadelphia, obviously we know, if we remember, that one came down to the wire. It was very tough. The Falcons, we beat 48-21. So if you just look at it from that standpoint, the Packers had no issue beating the Falcons. I think what I've talked about a lot is the fact that the Falcons were just a dominant football team that had a reputation for never losing at home because they didn't lose at home. And so when you're a wild card team that, really at one point it looked like your season was more or less kind of over, I mean, it was not looking great. Lose to the Falcons. I mean, you beat the Vikings and then you lose to the Falcons, beat the 49ers, lose to Detroit, lose to the Patriots. I mean, you're 8-6. It's looking a little glum. And then, you manage to win the last two, you get some help, you get into the playoffs, and then you barely beat the Eagles, and you got probably the toughest opponent. I mean, in terms of like what place does nobody want to go to or nobody want to play? It's Atlanta in Atlanta. That was the place you didn't want to be. So I guess I'm saying that prior to that was the scariest opponent. It just didn't seem like it was going to happen. It was happy to be there, happy we beat the Eagles, but Philadelphia, give me a break. And then for me, what I said was once we beat Atlanta, it was like there's no way. And then you're right, Chicago, that was also a close game, and you could argue that if Cutler hadn't gone out, we could have lost the game. Granted, the Bears seemed to do better when Cutler went out, but still, we had a hard time beating them with their backup coming in. And then after that, the Packers go on to beat Pittsburgh Steelers 31-25 to win the Super Bowl. Had some pretty weird things happen, so if you're asking the question which ones were the hardest and which ones were the easiest, I mean, the Eagles and Bears were the hardest. The Falcons was the easiest. But in terms of, which team was the scariest, Atlanta, especially in Atlanta, that offense was just unstoppable. And it's like the Packers showed up ready for a shootout, and the Falcons showed up not ready for the Packers defense. And so you end up with the Packers playing as though they were in a shootout, getting 48 points. Which was the most amount of points they had scored the entire season, and the Falcons just could not keep up. I mean, I remember going into that game saying, the first team to kick a field goal is going to lose, and the Packers just didn't kick any. To be fair, I don't think Atlanta did either, but, they punted, which is worse.
Hey, Mr. Man, it's my turn to be the repetitive caller. Right. I don't know how many times I'll call in, but this is my second one.
3 is the
again,
answer.
Looking at the 2010 season and then thinking about the 96 season, I started thinking about common denominators, things that were similar between the two teams. Of course, we had a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Defense.
We had, I know people can say that we had these great running backs, but we had good running backs. I was never a Dorsey Levin fan. Edgar Bennett, good thumper. I think Edgar Bennett was very much like James Starks. James Starks wasn't as good as Edgar Bennett, but he's along those lines. We had solid offensive lines, of course. That's just Packer thing. Wide receiver, we had a plethora of wide receivers, but no stud wide receiver. Tight ends, I think we had better tight ends in the far better tight ends in the 96. That's the point we didn't make. But so I'm drifting. Let's get back to the point. We had a star quarterback. We had a long list of solid wide receivers. We had a solid offensive line, and then we can go to the defense. And on defense, we had a superstar safety. We had Laurie Butler and Nick Collins. We had amazing corners. At least one amazing corner. I think we had two, really, both times. But we had these great corners. And then you look at the defensive line. On defensive line, we had a crazy pass rusher. Now, granted, you can't say that Clay Matthews and Reggie White are the same thing, but they were the crazy pass rusher. And then you had an insane inside guy where you had Gilbert Brown. I believe Gilbert Brown was on that team, unless I'm totally losing my mind. And then on the 2010 season, we had B.J. Raji. And those were guys that could do things that were just insane for the size man that they were in the position that they played. I want to say we got to look at our team, and we need to compare because we have a sample of two. Is the new team being built in the same sample of those two, and are those two really compatible? So there's a second thing for you to look.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with my assessment of defense, and I've tried banging this drum before. It kind of fell on deaf ears. People were kind of fighting back with me on it. I looked at it from a different perspective. Let's look at it from this perspective. Actually, let me see how far back I can go here. The Green Bay Packers have only been, let's see, since, heck, we can go back to 1960. Nope, wait, 1944. 1944, we won the championship. Our defense ranked third in points. 1961, we won the championship. They ranked second. 1962, they ranked first. When they won the Super Bowl, the first Super Bowl in 65, they were ranked number one. In 66, they were ranked number one. In 67, they were ranked third. In 1966, they were ranked number one. And in 2010, they were ranked number two. The Packers have never won a Super Bowl when their defense ranked outside of the top three, and you can do that in reverse. The Packers have almost never not won a Super Bowl when their defense ranked top three. The last time they ranked top three was 2010. The time before that was 1996. Before that was 1969. They did not win a Super Bowl. And then before that was Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl, or championship. So of the last, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 times that they have been a top three defense, in the last 6 times, they've won 5 Super Bowls. Since the Packers won their last Super Bowl, they have not been top 5 one time. Not once. They haven't been better than, they've only been better than 10th once in 2019. And, although the defensive points allowed is not the be-all, end-all, it's pretty straightforward to me. The Packers have had very good offenses. They have not had very good defenses. Get a good defense. That's it. What about offensive line? Yeah, I mean, everything helps. Offensive line, defensive line, corners, safeties, linebackers, running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks, coaches, GMs, the whole thing matters. We need to get back to having a top defense, period.
Man, I need like 10 more seconds. But the question was, are the two Super Bowl teams in the modern era, blah, 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 we forget the first two, are those two teams, can you see compatibility where we have the same key players, the same places, and are we building that same thing with this team? I know I went over the 10 seconds, but whatever, man. I might call again because I still have the second half to watch, so I might come up with more things to say. So, still in time, dude. You're on vacation.
Well, I mean, the compatibility, honestly, was defense. Defense, and I guess you would say quarterback, because the offense in 2010 ranked 10th. So it was not necessarily an elite offense. In 1996, it was. And it may have kind of blossomed, and it certainly had some good games mixed in. But overall, it was not some powerhouse thing like it was in 2011 when it was number 1, or even 2012 when it was number 5, or 2014 where it was number 1, 2016 number 4, 2020 number 1. It wasn't that.
Hey, Ryan, it's Craig from Indiana.
Hey.
Hope you had a good visit when you came to our state.
Sure did.
And things are going well at the Fertile Ground Ministry. On one of your podcasts recently, you talked about the new players really embracing Green Bay, seeming to like it there. And I think that's great. I'm always a little surprised that seems to be sometimes a shock to people, that people would like the Green Bay area. Because there's this assumption, I think, that, these players all want to live in big cities. And I don't think that's true. I did a quick search just on the SEC schools and what's the population of the cities where those schools reside. And, a lot of them are right around the Green Bay size.
Sure.
Tuscaloosa's around,
right.
Well, the census of 2020 was like 101. Gainesville was 133. Athens 126. Lexington's a little bigger at 225, and Baton Rouge is a little bigger. Columbia, Missouri is 125, but only 8 of them were above 100,000, which is around Green Bay's population, I think 105. And then the rest of the schools are less than that. So, these players go to these colleges that are in towns that aren't very, very big. They're not major cities. I think the same thing is true of the Big Ten, West Lafayette and Bloomington and of those other than Northwestern and now all those California schools. I think they're all in, fairly somewhat mid-sized to small cities. So just was thinking about that and didn't know if you had any thoughts on that. But, a guy like Jordy Nelson, who's working on a farm in Kansas now,
right,
would love a Green Bay. So I think in some respects, I think the cost of living, the sense of community, no traffic, all those other benefits of a Green Bay would be very, very attractive to a lot of players. So I was going to try to look at the size of the current players' hometowns and where they grew up, but I didn't find a great, quick, easy way to do that. So any thoughts you have on that, but just thought I'd share that. Take care. Bye.
Well, look, because I have touched on this before, the idea that not everybody wants to live in a city. I don't want to live in a city, so why would we assume everybody wants to live in a place like Chicago or New York or L.A.? It's funny enough, I'm trying to figure out how many people live inside of bigger cities. 39% of the U.S. population lives in cities with populations of 50,000 or more. Here's the problem. That includes Green Bay. If we look at how many people live in major cities, so let's call it 1 million people or more, we're talking 58 million Americans, which is 17.3% of the population. Now, let's assume that everybody in the city wants to be in the city. In other words, that's their choice, not because they need to be there for a career that makes them a ton of money. If they weren't making any money, they'd want to live there, which I doubt very much is the case. That means that over 80% of the population chooses not to live in big cities. Why in the world would we assume that 100% of football players want to live in major cities? Keep in mind, Green Bay, Wisconsin is a city. It's a city of over 100,000 people. It's not 1 million, which, again, only a little over 17% of the country lives in those types of cities. But, it's not Mercer, Wisconsin. It's Green Bay. It's a relatively sizable city. So, again, you would have to explain to it. Well, all I think this is it's people that are in the media who do live in cities who seemingly assume that The only reason everybody isn't in the city is because some people can't get to the city or just for whatever reason they're stuck outside of the city. But of course, everybody would want to be here. Nobody wants to live somewhere else, which is shockingly stupid because people that live in the cities are in the minorities. So yeah, I mean, even if football players massively skewed in the direction of wanting to live in big cities, you're still maybe talking 50-50. I think a lot of people are probably more than content. Now, maybe it's Wisconsin that's the problem. Maybe they'd rather live in like the suburbs of some place closer to their hometown. They'd rather be close to Atlanta or closer to New York or closer, in California or Florida or Texas. That could be the case. But the city thing, I think that's significantly less of a thing. And again, that would kind of point to not just Green Bay being a problem. That's a lot of places being a problem. Like, who would want to be a Minnesota Viking? It's a bigger city, but it's not about city. It's about who the heck wants to live in Minnesota or Michigan or Pennsylvania or Indiana or whatever. And some people would because they're from the area. People from Wisconsin would probably like to be there. So yeah, it's an overplayed hand. The idea that 100% of football players would prefer to be in big cities and therefore do not want to go to Green Bay. It's a baseless claim based on literally nothing. Anyways, let's take our final break. I don't think we've done that yet. We'll come back and we've got some Garrett from Southern Illinois.
With threats to our nation waiting around every corner, adaptability is more important than ever. When conditions change without notice, quick strategic thinking is crucial. And with obstacles consistently impending, determination is essential in overcoming them. It's this willingness, decisiveness, and resilience that sets Marines apart. With our fighting spirit, we don't just fight battles, we win them. Marines are the constant our nation counts on to fight the unknown. And through adaptable problem solving, we do just that. Learn more at marines.com.
Now's the time to save 30% on wedding jewelry, only on BlueNile.com. Make sure your wedding ring is the one with your pick of diamond and lab-grown diamond bands, all hand-finished and graded for excellence. Or surprise her with something blue she'll love for life, like a stunning pair of sapphire earrings. Blue Nile's jewelry experts are available 24/7 to help, from fit questions to style advice. Right now, get up to 30% off at BlueNile.com. BlueNile.com.
Have you ever experienced turbulence on a flight and wondered why?
And you can see all the terrain around you. You've got no issue with visibility or anything?
No, everything's peachy.
Maybe you've sat on the tarmac for hours wondering why your plane isn't moving.
Well, we're outside here. They're saying the ramp is closed. They won't let us park because of Air Force One.
Listen in on the conversations between pilots and air traffic controllers on the Air Traffic Out of Control podcast.
510 Whiskey declaring an emergency. There's smoke in the cabin. I need to make a landing right now on 31 left.
We have the most interesting, wild, and funny ATC recordings you will ever hear. Check out Air Traffic Out of Control wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Hey, Ryan, it's Garrett from Southern Illinois.
What's up?
So I want to play a game called Best Case Scenario, Worst Case Scenario. In your mind, without us winning the Super Bowl, what is your best case scenario for this season? Mine would be, of course, we make it to the playoffs. Maybe all the way to the NFC Championship. I don't think that that's, impossible by any means. But, some reason they fall short. But Jordan maybe gets MVP. And we have a lot of players recognized for Pro Bowl status. That'd be my best case scenario. Now my worst case scenario would be the same outcome, the NFC Championships. Our defense performs at a top 5 level, and due to that performance, we lose at least 2 of our coaches. I say worst case scenario because we know how, with the 2010 team, 2011 era,
McCarthy kept losing good coaches, and really, really good coaches are hard to come by. And if a player really is in sync with that coach, and then after 1 year loses that coach, and then someone else comes in and just doesn't push the buttons the same way, you're just not going to get the same performance out of that player again, possibly. So, I wanted to throw that out there because I think it's a realistic possibility that for a team that does really, really good, you're going to lose coaches to other teams. And you're also going to have, a plethora of really, really good players that get Pro Bowls that are maybe coming into what would be their last year on their contract. The problem is, who do you sign? When you have that many good players. I know that not everybody is going to perform at a level where they're going to need, top player money. But, for our wide receiver core, we've got a lot of guys that could be really good. And it's like, I guess we will know at the end of the season, who performs the best, who Goody is going to then, try to extend. But, it's just one of those scenarios that I can't help but think about because we've got so many guys that Goody has picked in the.
Well, going to the first part, obviously the best case scenario is everything was perfect except not winning the Super Bowl, right? If I had to pick exactly one thing, it's tough. It's hard to pass up on Jordan Love winning MVP because if that happens, you feel real good about the future. Outside of that, yeah, it would probably have something to do with the defense. Probably have to make some kind of a pick for them being a top 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 defense or something. If I could pick one thing, then they're the number one defense in football. But then, my overthinking comes in and it's like, oh crap, does that mean Jordan's not good? If we had the number one defense and, maybe the other thing would be to lose the Super Bowl by a game-losing field goal, which would be painful, but it means we got to the Super Bowl and we were right there, and there's really no reason to believe that we won't get back there next year. That might be the better one. But let's get to part 2 of the call.
And then on a different topic, a really quick one. When it comes to AI, I kind of want to just remind people that, sometimes with technology, some of the results aren't as great. There will always be some that will be really good, but I'll give you an example. I think of McDonald's as the AI of restaurants. When it first came out, yeah, it was like, wow, this is incredible. Food that's really, really quick. Then the invention of the drive-thru. Now food where you don't even have to get out of your car. And fast forward, now we have where on our phone we can order the food and it'll be ready when we get there and pick it up. But has McDonald's food really gotten any better with technology? It's gotten faster, but it's not really gotten better. And for instance, with my job delivering mail, technology has made it faster, but has mail delivery really gotten better? Me speaking personally, I don't think it has. It's actually gotten more inefficient due to technology. So I'm just one of those that I'm not ready to move on to just full AI everything. And I will take it with a grain of salt because I got to go.
He's getting pulled over right now. Well, I think I'm kind of following you a little bit. In the example of McDonald's, the thing that made McDonald's good is the thing that got better. It was never really about the food. I don't think anybody's ever gone to McDonald's and expected to get some kind of a gourmet meal. I don't think that was the point. The point was the revolution of food fast. And so it delivered on the promise and has continued to improve in that way. And you've listed all the different ways. The speed with the technology of actually cooking and preparing the food has gotten faster, as well as the ways in which we can do it. You got the little kiosks in there where you can order on your phone and go pick it up, blah, 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 blah. Now you can have everything delivered to you and whatnot. I can't speak to the mail necessarily, but I mean, you said it's faster, but is it better? I don't know how to make mail delivery better, to be honest. As long as it's in my mailbox at some point, I think they did a good enough job. Not really looking for anything else from the mail unless we're talking about the actual contents of the mail, in which case that could get better, but I don't think the post office has anything to do with that. Unless they want to start slipping me 20s or something in my mailbox. But I think, at least now for AI, all I'm doing is kind of looking at things that I would deem to be inevitable. I think we've kind of crossed a threshold. I'm trying to think of an example, but we've kind of crossed a threshold to where there's a minimum of what it's going to be able to do. And we have not yet reached that minimum, right? I mean, just based on what the technology has demonstrated it's able to do, through ChatGPT. I mean, we have all of this. It continues to get smarter. That'll reach a top end at some point, but we haven't really seen it yet. I mean, we've kind of seen it with image generation a little bit, where it's kind of peaked to where, I mean, the most realistic, lifelike images, for the most part, I mean, there's some little glitchy things in there, but that is pretty much peaked, with minor tweaks coming along the way, I'm sure. But we have not seen it with music generation, although, again, we've kind of reached a pretty big peak. Now the biggest thing is video. Video right now is not good. Once we get to the point where video can generate very high quality videos and do so pretty quickly, where it's not like, well, give me a half hour to generate this 2-minute clip, that's where we've kind of hit a wall. But then there's still with the technology we have, how does this, because it's still just barely starting to permeate throughout. And it's going to take a while for people to recognize, and it's going to take a while for people to take these things and develop programs. And it's seeping into the medical world, and it's getting into this and into that. And AI has now gotten to the point where it can recognize images. Multimodal is what it's called. It can recognize images and videos, so that can be used, for example, in medical things, where you can have AI help diagnose scans or whatever. Amazon has already introduced AI that can sort of inspect packages to make sure that everything is okay. I guess I'm just saying there's a bare minimum of what's going to be allowed just based on kind of common sense. We're already there. It just hasn't permeated throughout society yet, and it's going to continue to do that. Now, are we going to reach these sort of superhuman Terminator 2 levels of intellect, these quantum computer type things? I don't know. Are we ever going to get to AGI, which is sort of like when computers can kind of, I don't want to say think for themselves, but will have the ability to think beyond how we think, be able to solve things that we haven't been able to solve. I don't know. Some people think not. Elon thinks we could be there in a matter of a couple of years. He generally is a little bit more optimistic than what is true. But I think for the most part, of the people that believe it will be a thing, I think all of them are within, before 2030, think that AGI is going to be here. But maybe it won't. And maybe you're right about, the under delivery of things, and it's not really, we're not going to get to that level, and we're not going to see all these kind of utopia type things where robots run everything and we stay home and collect paychecks, which that's further down the line. But if that were ever a thing, and this is kind of like weather forecasting. I mean, there's a big difference between what's going to happen in 5 minutes and what's going to happen in 5 years. It falls apart rapidly when you start looking beyond a day and a week and a month, with so many variables, and that's where we are. But what I guess my focus is on, AI has already demonstrated the capability to do a lot of things, and those things are already real today. It's just a question of how much better are they going to get, and then in what ways are they going to permeate society. It's going to take time, for people to build out businesses and programs and things that are geared toward, music and, like I said, for an example, as opposed to just like a website where I can go in and type in a prompt and get a song. Who's going to be the first to create sort of a music editing software, or possibly just build into existing ones, the ability to generate from within? So you can start with, create for me this, and then you can edit every single little thing from within there. All those kinds of things. They're not yet built. I mean, we're in the very, very early beginning stages of just playing with stuff that's brand new. So I guess it depends what we're talking about. There are certain things that are just a certainty that are going to happen because it's already here. And then there's a question of how far is it going to go and in what direction. And yeah, I don't know. It could certainly underdeliver. It just doesn't seem to at this point because it's happening so unbelievably rapidly and exponentially. I mean, when you look at the growth from if you just look at GPT, the GPT 2 to 3 to 4, and then what is expected from 5, it's unbelievably massive. I mean, we're talking 12 to 20 times the compute capacity. And then what does that mean practically? It means a lot. The amount of data and the price at which it's going to be able to be processed and the speed at which it's going to be processed is going to give us a ton of ability and capability. And if that lowers the cost for companies and corporations, that gets passed down to us, which means a better cost of quality of life, cost of living, everything else. It trickles down. But it'll take time. We're not as fast as the computers are. All right, I tell you what, I'm going to end it there. I would do another one, but we've got a lot of doubles and triples. Kyle from Madison's got 3 calls, and I don't want to do 3 calls, and I don't want to stop them mid-thought, so we're just going to stop there. We are down to 11, so if you wanted to get some calls in, go ahead and do it. Probably got a good 2 days left with the amount of calls that we have, so putting it out there. You guys have a good rest of your night. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.